All right, so it occurred to me as I showered this morning that I have the unique opportunity to say whatever the bleep I want to say on this camera. And so what do? Just read from my book day in, day out, like a robot? Sending out these messages in a bottle with the hope that someone far away will not only understand, but empathize. No, sir. Maybe I should talk about the art exhibit that I saw yesterday with my family. Kehinde Wiley presenting a series of sculptures and large scale paintings in the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. I could maybe do some compare and contrast with my work. Or I could talk about a friend's birthday that I attended not too long ago. And that feeling of, gosh, I want to impress everyone here, but they won't listen to me. And then they do. And those feelings just turn to dust. I could talk about politics and about how I am obsessed with some presidents and detesting others. Or I could just read from the book, like I said earlier. So, where were we? Oh, yes. Chapter 13. So, if I recall, the boys, they got together, they were in Bordeaux, they met up with some musicians at a bar and chit-chatted about Conor Oberst. And I was throwing in some lines from Oberst and some lines from Oasis in there. Europeans love Oasis. I don't know why. I guess they're good. That said, chapter 13. It says, the tour bus we had booked the day before took us entre deux mers and into the Saint-Emilion Valley, stopping at 3 vineyards along the way. The whole ride, some dual citizen tour guide stood at the front of the bus and yacked silly stories committed to memory, boring half the bus to sleep. We took it as an invitation to mend our hangovers between stops, the first of which was just past Chateau Margaux, at a lesser-known chateau. We huddled around the chateau's rep and drooled over his descriptions of the winemaking process. He spoke in sonnets, the grapes acting as the male and female characters of his verse, first conceived by the spring, then fondled by the harvest, tortured by machinery, and then consumed by the fat cats and fat jacks of the world. Alcohol, the greatest equalizer, brings intellectuals to their knees, the rich closer to their dreams, and the homeless closer to home. Lucky for the chateau, the dream and the home were one and the same. On the way back to Bordeaux, our guide stood up again and rattled off some more life stories. Thick, boring ones, without a dash of enthusiasm or style, unlike the wine rep. This was good, for Rick, Alex, and I wanted to nap anyway, unable to hold back the acid reflux consciously much longer. A day's worth of wine bubbling up from our shredded tummies. The 2 boys across the aisle from me passed out and eventually leaned their heads on one another. When the bus ran over a pothole, their heads knocked together like coconuts. They woke up dizzy, laughed, then passed out again, only to lean against one another's head once more. On my own, in a seat across the bus aisle, I rubbed my temples and tuned in to the view outside. Past the windows to the valley's rivers. Under an Atlantic sunset, La Dordogne made love to La Garonne. Above them, a rainbow and the clouds took their seats to watch. Rolling hills let grow bent grapevines up old planks of olive tree wood. Evening dreams seeped like rainwater into the Malbec branches. Fantasies drew over empty canvases. And a light filled my vision between a dark void and a heavy hangover. Mi resaca, mil resacas. Re seca la tenía. Solo el dulce jugo de su durazno podría apagar mi sed en este desierto. ¿Cómo mordería esa fruta? Pensé. ¿Cómo calaría con mi propio ser su interior? Pero por ahora no. Solo hubo sed. Ni una gota de felicidad de mi conjunto de culpa y vagancia. La paja no crece en el desierto, me han dicho. ¿Soy yo la excepción? ¿Cuánto tiempo puede un hombre soportar la falta de contacto íntimo ante la sobra de materia orgánica que su organismo fabrica y acumula? Squish. Her squeaks. The sound of a tired rodent unhinged from its loose wheel. Her right dimple, the stem of a strawberry. Her chest and 2 plums. Our bodies interwoven, a cornucopia. I pulled it with my tongue, that juicy fleshy pith caught between my teeth, to think of her. It had been too long since those fireworks. Even if it burns, cannons miss the taste of fodder, ever forgetting there was smoke. My body reloaded the catapult, but it wouldn't shoot the same. The winding road of the tour made me sick. I had to throw up. Though coughs brought it up, medication held it down, long enough to reach our crummy 2-star room where I showered and released what needed to come out. That night we shot back out to the University District for round 2, finding a square lined with bars and hundreds of patio tables. Between joining other backpackers, other drunk university types, ordering pitchers of beer, experiencing confusion and blacking out the rest, we ended up with these 2 American girls with shrill voices, and their stout, square-shaped friend from Nicaragua. The 2 girls were forgettable. The square kid was square only in dimension, otherwise he was flirty and coquettish and wrist-snapping fabulous, greased up on some tangy cologne. We figured they were students, though we got little conversation out of them that I remember. Eventually we skedaddled when the 2 ladies walked in the bar thirsty, and walked out with a pair of vodka liters. "That was nice of Ali," the square said, "to give you sexy ladies the booze." "Oh, we, honey. We finally as drunk as we are broke. We probably should leave soon. Allons-y?" "Super," he said, "super," resting his elbows on the table and batting his eyes. "I must pee-pee before we allons-y." "Don't go back there, silly," one of the girls said. "Allons-y to Bernie's bar." Rick agreed we should go to Bernie's, Alex too. "Okay, but I must pee-pee," cried the Nicaraguense. "Go piss over yonder," Rick said, tossing a thumb over his shoulder. "By that alleyway." The square waddled away, but the 2 American girls decided not to wait for their friend and scampered off to drink their bottled booty at their apartment. All the bars would be closed anyway, even Bernie's, they said. Rick looked out at the girls and sighed. I suggested we follow them, but Alex insisted we not abandon the poor boy. When he came back, he shook his head and told us those girls always left him behind. He suggested the 4 of us try our luck over by the river. "I know a bar that's still open," the square assured us. Rick, Alex, and I looked at each other and shrugged our shoulders. Allons-y. We passed a couple of old rickety bridges that threatened to collapse if we set off the booby traps on the wrong side of the street, and many a sketchy convenience store with your average arms-folded merchant making sure you purchased poppers from the right guy, till through and through we crossed over from the everlasting darkness of mid-nowhere Bordeaux, somehow, to the disco side of town. No girls were allowed in the bar the square had recommended, but we didn't notice until we broke through to the other side. It didn't take long for the fog to fill our orifices. Neon blue lights blinded us. Thick grime on the ceramic tiles dimmed our shoes. A layer of spilled drink coating the floor almost made us slip backwards. What drinks hadn't been spilled, remained in cheap lowballs, and Rick bounded, as always, straight to the bar to order himself a glass while low-hanging fixtures kept blinding us and a faraway DJ landed kick and snare hits over our heads. If it hadn't been for the rows of mirrors along the black wall behind the bar, it might have taken us longer to realize where we were. Oh my God. Damn. Alex and I stood there at the edge of what might have been considered the dance floor, only really, men were dancing all over, on everything, in pairs and groups by themselves. The whole scene was curious to say the least, zesty to most. People jammed and had a good time, and I dove head first, followed by Alex, to see what was up and feel how it felt, and let her hair fall in rhythm with the groove, the pool of underground remixes, 1-2. Till out of nowhere some jack dudes picked me up and swung me around like a hammock. 3-4, laughter floating over me along with more hair and kicks. 1-2, over snares. 3-4, dropped. My jeans hit a puddle of slime on the way down. I got up and let the dignity of a past life drip down my thigh. My sex drive parked itself by the bar, where other people's lust stood at bay. Our sole desire to drink and chill, I found Alex there, sipping at the last of an appletini someone had bought him. I hastened to join the bastard who had abandoned me, like a tattered flag to a gay breeze in a queer mast. Eventually we met up, and he explained how he had gotten his drink, but I ignored him. My will and drive were gone, and so was the square. What was his name? Thanks for the save, I told Alex. He shut up for a second, turned around and ordered a light brew. His elbows were to the bar as he faced the neon blue madness of the orgy before us. You look like you were having fun, he said, passing me the beer. I snatched it, took a hit, then shook my head. Something's missing, he said. Yeah, I said, chicks. Where's Rick? I don't know. He mentioned something about wrecking a toilet. I turned to the sign and pointed to a restroom off the far corner of the bar, across the sea of dead stairs, and saw men coming out in pairs, 3s, even 5s. Some would even catch me looking and wink. I would frown. But it didn't stop them from approaching Alex and me, offering to buy us some drinks or poke our belly buttons for a dance. Maybe there's more to life than hooking up at bars, I told Alex, after pushing the parade off of us. Alex kept quiet, adjusted his collar. I looked out at the sea again, flicked Alex's beer glass, and grabbed it when he passed it, took a hit, and passed it back. You know what the best place is to meet good, honest women? Nah, where? Farmers markets. That's how you met Jenna, isn't it? Alex couldn't answer before Rick showed up. His hands were free of an alcoholic beverage, which was strange. But we found out it was because the glasses were in his pockets. He had exactly 6 shots, because, "Hey, Meek," he whispered, "watch this!" And he smashed the glass against the floor. And then another, until all 6 shots were fired and only fumes dripped from his jeans. "Yeah, buddy," he shouted. "Pass me another glass, Mick." Then, as if that weren't enough, he went around and played the role of a barback, picked up other people's shot glasses, and fastballed them against the walls and the bar counter. "You want to charge me €8 for a shot?" Rick bellowed. "Then I'm going to get my money's worth." Crash, crash, more glass collided with the ground. He tossed a smoke grenade before security could kick us out. We sprinted out the back door, back through nowhere, underworld, Bordeaux. It was only a matter of time before this would happen, I thought. I had seen this side of Rick only a handful of times, like the time he knocked out my tooth with a margarita pitcher, Or the time he ran barefoot across the Capitol building in Austin with a pizza in one hand and a 40 in the other. Or the time he traded a homeless man a can of beer for some cookies. Only the cookies were on the ground, and they didn't belong to the homeless man. Alex couldn't keep up with the run, but luckily, by the time he had lost his breath and vomited fine wine and cheap beer between gasps, the coast was clear, and the chances of getting captured dropped down to the French zero. Bing.